Someone join sometime.
You may not though, it depends on the situation.
Councillor Brennan, take your seat.
Yeah. All right.
I'll go through the first bits anyway. Declarations of interest. Anyone declaring interest in any of that tonight? If not, raise it at the time. Public question time. We've got no questions received, and we've got no public present. Next up is to approve an accurate record of the minutes of the meeting of Finance and General Purposes Committee held on 22nd September. Okay, you've got a question?
Thank you, Chair. I did notice that it said the meeting closed at 9:30 PM on those minutes, and I'm pretty sure they didn't, unless I'm misremembering that.
Top of my head. I can't recall.
I think 9:30 is the template number that's usually on there.
What is it? Do we have the follow-on? Is
Leave it if it works.
yeah, indeed. And we're discussing the signing after that.
Maybe that
We'll
makes sense.
look back in the video.
Yeah, I'm in agreement for us to agree the minutes pending agreeing a revised closing time and liaison with the chair after meeting.
Yeah.
Check your records.
Okay.
Only they John, it's 9:25.
Maybe.
You can hardly, didn't you?
Yeah, it's a photo extend one time, don't you?
It'll be on the video anyway. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Video.
Having a absolute.
Yeah, I might have been.
That's why we were on a bit longer.
Maybe.
Okay. Next bit, the action tracker. The items will actually be covered later in sections in a later section. We'll catch up that later. Finance report. I'll turn to Lisa to give us an update on the finance report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. So you've all received the finance report. So I'll just give a quick overview and then just update you on some notes. So the recommendations on the finance report are to note the revenue budget position and year-end forecasts for the current financial year. The current budget position and the forecasts are based as at 30th of September. Members will note that as part of the report, we've stated the year-end forecast is currently looking at a underspend of £119,517. This is mainly due to the National Pay Award being less than budgeted for this financial year, as well as variances during the current year. This obviously doesn't take account of any unknowns. Obviously, that is at September. Already we know in recent weeks that we've got some additional costs that aren't included in those. So you will receive that at the next committee meeting as an update. So moving on to note the council's earmarked reserves as at 30th September. That's appendices to this report. And then 1.3 to note current investments, item 5. Just noting that the second half of the precept came in at the beginning of October, and that was invested immediately with the CCLA to obviously maximise on interest earning. And then just lastly, 1.4 to provide members with an update on the first internal audit report for this financial year, and to update members on the external audit for the last financial year. So this afternoon, apologies it was late, I only received it today. The internal audit report was circulated to you all. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to read it. So we will add it to full council just so that it is part of an agenda pack. But just to note that members will be pleased to note that the report concludes that the council continues to maintain effective systems of internal control. The visit was last week, 2 days. So the report will give you all the detail on all the items that the auditor covered whilst he was here on a visit. There was a couple of things just to note. The play area play area external inspection reports. He quite often looks at those, goes through them with the grounds team, grounds manager. Although the inspection reports are obviously available should members ever wish to look at them at any time, what will now happen, as agreed with John, the head of grounds and environmental services, they will now be included in the information report as a summary of the update of the inspections as they stand, just to give you a bit more information at that time. And then the auditor also mentioned, noted that how we deal with petty cash, we've changed slightly, so we've put in a more robust processes and procedures. We've introduced those, we've updated balances for real time. Some of the balances haven't changed for some years, like the Older People's Project, for example, but obviously they've expanded their numbers, so they needed a little bit more money. So we've looked into all of that. So that's the kind of thing the internal auditor does assist us with. And then just highlighting item 7.2 about the external audit report. So as members will be aware, part of the year-end processes and under the audit regulations, the external audit should be completed by the 30th of September 2025 for the last financial year. As I wrote this report and still haven't received a response despite chasing the external auditors for a completion date. We're not the only council that haven't received their external audit. I've not known it before. Our internal auditors were disappointed, but they are aware again of other councils also not receiving theirs. All we can do is wait and chase, and hopefully we will have an update for the next committee meeting. So that concludes that report.
No, I think we're putting a note of that on the website as well, aren't we?
Yeah, so
There's a delay.
when they contacted us towards the end of September, advising there was going to be a delay, they did say that we had to put a notice on the report, so we did it immediately. We can only update when we get a response.
Okay, any questions for Lisa? Sorry. Okay, we'll go for Councillor Alden first. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for that report. I was having a look at the reserves and I wondered if it might be possible to consider a review of the reserves ahead of the budget. So I know some of those reserves might be too large or might be outdated. For example, the neighbourhood development reserve is £12,000, which is for a neighbourhood plan that the council voted against. So there's money there, and also there's talk later in the report of creating a 5,000 health and safety reserve. So maybe it might be possible to look at the reviewing the reserve and seeing if there might be a more equitable spread of that. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Atmore.
Just an initial observation. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone to see that it's very pleasing to see that it's coming in. Literally every single department here is an underspend. So I think in the challenging times that we've got with corporate services, grounds, community services, all underspent, I think that's credible. So that's good news. Obviously, it's going to be a challenging year ahead, and that's not going to be. We're not looking at those hurdles just yet, but I think it's worthy to note that it's good that it's all coming in and puts us in the best possible position as we could be. So I think that's definitely worth a mention. One of the queries I was going to ask is the external auditors, have they given a reason why the delay at all, or they haven't? So
and there's another auditor as well, because obviously we're just assigned auditors. They're also delayed.
Okay.
It's
strange.
Yeah.
It's a national issue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Must be a shortage or something on staff personnel.
No, I don't to the homes at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor tomorrow.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the issue of the auditors, is the council in any way in breach of anything because of the lateness? We're not in breach. It's absolutely fine.
No, if it was due to our or our delay, then we would be. But obviously, we've done everything that we can.
So just one more question in line with Councillor Alderman's question in terms of the underspend. Just wanted to understand, considering the current underspend, do you see that this would be sort of continuous, you know, in terms of getting a feel for what would happen next year? Can you see the same kind of, you know, no, could say Paul, nothing.
I think it's really difficult. Obviously this year it's mainly down to the salaries as well as vacancies, and obviously vacancies are unforeseen, and we can only ever set the budget for the salaries on our best guess, because we never know what the National Pay Award is. It's not a request that we're putting in to set the budget for next year for 4%. It's based on best guess. We talk to other councils, Paul talks to other councils to try and gauge what other councils are looking at, if they know anything, anybody's received any information, but it's really difficult, and we can't under budget. We have to be really careful with salaries, because if we were under, we'd have to find quite a substantial figure. So
better to over.
It's really hard to say whether that would happen again.
Yeah, and I think generally kind of pick up on that point and on Councillor Alderman's point, that the forecast is still a very draft figure. We definitely know there are things, there's additional expenditure we're going to have to spend we didn't know about when we wrote this report. So by the time we get to the next round, that figure will become more accurate. And at that point, we'll certainly look for ways to use that underspend to drop next year's budget. So we'll come up with proposals for that, because by then, hopefully, we'll be a bit more confident about the numbers we're actually talking about.
Okay. I was going to say, in fact, we did that for the furniture as well, didn't we? There was none to spend in one area, and we moved it to do the chairs next door. So
yeah,
I think we're all going to look at. Yeah, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Chair. So the external auditors, how far did you get? Like, has there been dialogue with the auditors up until a point? I assume they've asked you for loads of stuff. You've given them loads of stuff. They've said, oh, their stuff looks great. Give us a minute. And then they haven't spoken to you again.
Yeah, so we have to submit it by the 30th of June. All of the initial paperwork they've asked us for, which is quite a lot of information gathering. We submitted that the day after full council in June, so I think it was the 24th of June. And then we don't tend to hear anything, because we are a large council and they know it's going to take some time, till at least the end of August, and then it's kind of a rush through September to go back and forth with different information evidence that they request.
Sure.
We didn't hear anything mid-September, so then obviously Paul was like, have you had anything? I contacted them and said, where are you with anything? Then they came and said, we're delayed. If we don't get back to you by the 30th of September, please publish this document, like this notice on your website statement, which we obviously did. And then they emailed, I think it was the 8th of October, to put it in the report. I got back to them around the 16th. I chased them about a week and a half ago, and I got out of office, but only that this person only worked 3 days a week. But yeah, I've received nothing since.
And no level of assurance at all is what we've given them so far. Okay, that's cool. Another question is on the internal audit, auditing solutions. As far as I remember, we've used that company since I've known this council. Is that a good thing?
We are actually a tender for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's always so. No man.
We've used the same auditors company, but different. We've had different auditors come in.
Yeah.
So probably had about 4 in my time at the council.
Okay. And is the robustness of the estimates on this underspend, sorry, how good is that? So how confident are we that this is the underspend as it's going to be? Because I'd like to, it would be good to know if at the end of the financial year there will be an extra £119,000.
Well, as we sort of mentioned, we've set it based on best known at this time. So all the budget managers go through all of their budgets and they set a forecast based on it, and then they will update it on the day that they know that there's an area of concern or otherwise. obviously when I did at the time of writing this report, that is what we knew of. Since then, as Paul mentioned, we have got a couple of things that have come up in recent weeks that we know are going to cost us and will make an impact on that underspend, reduce its, hopefully not too much, but you know, quite. So we can only do what we know at that time. I wouldn't say I'm not confident that we won't have an underspend, but it may not be what we're suggesting today.
And if I can just pick up on Councillor Alderman's point about the reserve, about reviewing the reserves. I might have missed that, but is that something we can specifically ask for now as the committee and have it report back?
I mean, you can go down the reserves spreadsheet and do it now, or email me if you have any suggestions or questions on why the balances are that as what they are, because obviously some of them we will know what the, even if they don't show in the committed amount, it may be that we know just from experience that we have to build up these reserves. So for example, the IT reserve, there's no commitment, but we know the £21,000 is not going to touch a renewal when it comes to it in 3 years' time for all of the equipment, so we have to build them up.
Sure.
So but obviously by all means go down the list like Councillor Alderman has and point out any that you're not sure about.
I just wondered if it would be a good idea, because we don't have that like macro knowledge of the reserves, because we'll suggest something and we'll say fencing reserve, do you really need that? That seems like a bit much, when actually, like, I do know that it is important, but then normally John Crawley will shoot back and say something like, actually don't touch my fencing reserve, so I'm gonna knock your teeth out, or something like that.
Good storm, and then you finally got
Yeah, exactly.
the fence in to put up.
So I just mean it would be good to have an officer's overview of how touchable those reserves are, or how like painfully necessary they are, especially as what we're looking at, and how much everyone is of the opinion that we need to do everything we can to get costs down.
Alderman again.
Thank you, Chair. And to be clear, I'm not thinking about taking money out of any reserves to cover day-to-day spending. I'm thinking, is there money that would be better placed in reserves that might offset future Public Works Loan Board loans or any other big spending or plans that we might need? I'm trying to think long term, like can we restack this in a way that's more beneficial?
Yeah, I think if there were any dormant reserves that weren't necessary, then they'd most likely end up in some other reserve which we'd like to top up, which we struggle to with the normal precept. Okay, if no more questions, can I have your acknowledgement to note that points 1, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4 have been received?
Yeah.
Yes. Duly noted. Lisa? Yeah. Moving on to compliance and facilities report, and for Deputy Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. So the report was written by Katie before she went on maternity leave, so it didn't seem fair to ask Corinne to come and present it, who's covering, so I'll present the report. So first aspect of the report is to remember at the last meeting we talked about the Carbon and Energy Action Plan, and you wanted something that had some targets in it. You seem to be persuadable to lose the target that we had, becoming carbon neutral, but you wanted something clearer. So we provided you an updated proposed action plan with some of the complete and some of the, and everything's got a target date on it. So the proposal is to adopt the revised action plan. The proposal is then to disband the environmental working group as was proposed by the environmental working group, and then for this committee to receive regular updates and monitor that work. And to revise action 6 of the corporate plan as at 6.4, which is to revise it to say to reduce Dunstable Town Council's total climate impact to 40 by 2030. That is the carbon energy aspect of the report. Grove House Building Works, this is just for information. We are following a lot of effort and energy with several professionals now. We're just getting tenders in for a full structural replacement of the building. So there's so many questions we've got and there's uncertainty. The only sensible way to go forward is to get a full appraisal done of the building. Then we will know where we are. Otherwise, we're just going to be doing things piecemeal and end up in another situation where we keep finding stuff around halfway done. But at the same time as doing that, we're seeking engagement with Central Beds Conservation Officer really early in those works, so we don't end up with delays, and to gain their support for the approach we're taking. From the engineer who looked at the building, the new proposal is that we redesign the rainwater system at the front to connect into the public underground drainage system, which would protect the building a lot more, because at the moment we've got saturated main walls at the front. So the draft proposal would be that we put our water into the main rainwater system rather than just having it come down through the building and across the pavement and then come back again.
Oh, it actually goes across the pavement.
So if you look out the front, you can see the drain pipes go down, and grooves in the new pavement have been put there, especially for our water to drain across the pavement.
Not the idea.
Now, whether I'm not an expert on CBC's rainwater permissions and drainage permissions, but I'm fairly sure it's not going to be an easy or straightforward quick conversation. But that's our expert's proposal. We will crack on with some temporary repairs to the rear parapet gutter wall, just to stop water streaming in the way it has done a few times recently. Hopefully to stop toadstools growing in my ceiling above my desk. So we will keep you posted on that. The tenders have had all but one tender in now for that piece of work, so work is very active on it. And we really want to take the scaffolding down, but we can't. We don't want to do things in the wrong order, bearing in mind this is a listed building and planning consents, so we're somewhat constrained. We want to make sure we do the right thing in the right order, rather than necessarily doing the tempting quick thing that could have unforeseen consequences. In terms of Grove House, we are almost there with the marriage venue licence. CBC, we're enthusiastic when they came to look around the building, so they're keen to get going with us, keen to give us a license and to work with us on weddings. So that was really positive, even in the current state of the building. So they're, as long as we're honest and upfront with people and they know what they're getting, I think it'd be good to go for a few weddings next year and early months of next year and learn a few lessons, work with CBC and start to build that business. Downside Community Centre leases drafted, just in the final stages. So the next item, this again is just for information. So with all the health and safety things we're looking at the moment, these are some of the costs, which are some of the items where we are having to incur costs. So replacing the fire alarm system here, some additional recommended fire safety devices, emergency lighting. So these are all going to cost money, which is why when we look at the budget and we've got a new reserve for health and safety and we're increasing the health and safety budget, it's because we are literally having, because of the inspections we're doing and the checks we're having, we are having expenditure to occur which we cannot not incur. The CCT review will happen, but it's slightly on hold because we're going to have the grounds ASB working group first, which will then feed into the wider CCTV review to make sure we're not having the same conversations twice in slightly different terms. And I've talked about environment and biodiversity. I've been through several, it might feel like slightly random items, but they do all fall under compliance. Happy to take questions. Obviously, you've got 3 recommendations to consider.
Councillor Jones.
Outside Community Centre, have they had their draft lease yet? The occupants, please.
Did have a version of it. They're awaiting the final version, which I was told would be in a few days. Was it last Wednesday? So it will be any day now. I'm told our solicitor will give it to them.
6 would have been drafted like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And you know, it's no secret that it's having a negative impact on them, enabling them to gain their grant funding and their opportunities to be able to sustain their business. We are at risk of losing and then having an empty building. And I just really don't want that to happen. So we have an empty building up there, then we're going to have an even bigger issue on our hands with money that we're going to have to use to protect it.
So hopefully, quick resolution on that one, hopefully. Councillor Holly.
Thank you. Just going back to 3.1 and Grove House. Yes, you mentioned obviously there are costs involved, comprehensive structural survey, etc., etc. Are we happy that we've got enough in reserves, or we've put enough aside to actually meet all this? Because it is a fair amount of work. I appreciate that it's a 5 to 10 year phased programme, but more we can do up front, I suppose, the better.
We have enough in the reserve. Well, we haven't actually seen the prices of a structural survey, but we
No.
do have enough in there to cover the structural survey and some of those immediate works. We almost certainly don't have enough to cover what the structural survey will tell us we need. And we probably won't have that in time for budget setting for next year. We have increased the budgetary contribution to Grove House Reserve next year. We're just going to have to see that report when it comes. I don't think we can recommend doing anything else now until we have the report and have a better idea of what costs are going to be. But you need to be aware that there will be an additional cost, and we don't know where that's going to come from. It might have to come off next year's precept, or we'll find grant funding if we can, but I'm not optimistic.
Essentially, it's sort of getting a decent foundation, and then whatever work can be done over the 5 to 10 years, presumably, is reviewing and then maintaining sort of general upgrading, not upgrading, but updating, or making sure that things are okay. Yeah, okay, thank you.
We'll make sure it doesn't fall down on all the new stuff we're putting in.
I don't know about the mushroom growth, whether that's saleable.
Councillor Alden, did you raise your question? You're on earlier.
I was going to raise my question, and I
Yeah.
can.
Councillor Atwell, the first. No, go on, carry on.
No, go on, you can.
So regarding the Energy and Carbon Action Plan, thank you for the edits to that in terms of a solid goal for 2030. You're going to hate me for saying this. There's no talk of future goals after that in terms of 2035, 2040, stuff that we can plan in the long term so we know what we're dealing with, better preparedness for the future. Is there a possibility of something like that coming on along the road? Because we're talking about disbanding the carbon working group, but I'm interested in there being a long-term plan that's being tracked so we don't take our eye off the ball on that.
We tried to simplify it down, and we've given actions up to 2030 at the moment, and quite a few TBCs there as well, which depend on, for example, Kingsbury. We will do that when we do that piece of work on that building. What we've done there is something we can do that stuff. It's within our control. It gives us a plan for the next 5 years. So it takes us to the end of this corporate plan well into the next one. So my ask would be that for now we focus on those things, and then in 2 or 3 years maybe come back and say, well, how are we doing on that? Because this is going to be coming back to you on a regular basis. You can hold us to account on what it is, and as things get ticked off at some point in the next 2 or 3 years, things will move forward. Technology will move forward.
Technology
Done
before
the
we
planning
change
of the
things.
building. So at that point, we may want to do more with it.
Okay.
We have a plan to do the building 10-year plans on each of our buildings as well. So it may be that part of that works can include some targets in that as well.
Yeah.
So we could certainly consider that and bring that to a later committee.
Positive. My other question is, are we confident we'll meet that 2030 target with the planned works that we have in the pipeline?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Councillor Atwell.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, obviously, regarding the full structural survey, which I completely agree with, because you've got to know what you're working with. And obviously I appreciate as well that whatever recommendations come out of that will have to be prioritised. But based on what's already been discussed, and we're getting the marriage licence and the importance of that would have an income revenue stream for us, would it be mindful to look at what we can get done as a priority to get the scaffolding down as soon as possible? Once we've got the full survey, to obviously, it's some really important things on there. We just need to do them with the scaffolding or not first. But really prioritise the things that we can get the scaffolding down from, because then obviously we can get the marriage license thing and everything going, because that's imminent. We can start making more of a revenue of that, because we've already discussed before about you know, it's been raised that it's obviously not great aesthetically to have the scaffolding outside, so it would seem great to prioritise getting that down as soon as possible. I appreciate that where we currently are.
It's fair to say that we're very keen to get it down, and our contractors are very keen to get it down, and CPC are keen to get it down. So
Right.
as soon as we can, we absolutely will.
I think the unfortunate thing is that part of the immediate sort of temporary works to the rear will include scaffolding, because it is from the roof upwards. So there will be, we may get to a situation where we're removing the front scaffolding and then erecting it behind, which is really unfortunate, but we're trying our best.
I think the front of the building's really the most
Yeah.
important part at the moment, but appreciate it'd be ridiculously it'd be ridiculous to take it all down and then realise obviously we've got structural things that would put it back up again, which is more costly. So you have to do things in the right order. Appreciate that, but it's just thinking about, you know, what we can do to maximise that revenue stream.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we can do a vote on the 3 recommendations. To agree to disband the environmental working group. I think those in favour. Okay, that's unanimous. To agree to adopt carbon and energy action plan at item 6.3. We're okay, yep. Okay. Passed. To agree to revise action 6 of the corporate plan at item 6.4. Okay with that? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on. So we have the marketing communications being presented by Rachel.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. As you can see on the report, social media followers are growing, with the Town Council social media now reaching over 15,000 followers. So on to that next milestone of 16,000, hopefully. As of today, we're only 6 followers away on Instagram to reach 1,000 followers. So another milestone. So the more people that know what's going on in our services, the better. Using video format is still proven popular to engage with our audience, as you can see from the report. Using Town Centre Manager as the face of the Town Council is working really well, and she often feeds back to me that she gets really positive feedbacks from members of the public and stuff like that. Onto the website continues to run smoothly with no reported issues. As you can see in the report, people are using the accessibility tool. Onto Talk of the Town. The Talk of the Town Christmas edition is out now and distributed to households, as well as in Stockton Priory House, Ashton Square Toilets and Bennett's Cafe in the cemetery for people to pick up. The Town Centre Manager often restocks the leaflet stand with Talk of the Towns in the toilets, so they seem to disappear quite quickly in there. Onto the community lottery. We continue our efforts to try and get people to play and support the community lottery for good causes. We've produced 1 video so far where Good Causes talked about why they joined and what the money raised would help them go towards, and that seems to be a good reaction. I'm hoping to get more Good Causes to do another video. We've got over 32 Good Causes registered, and that's it from me.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you,
Yes.
Chair. Rachel, I just watched about the Talk of the Town. The last edition did come to, I think, the new estate. Yeah.
Was it your estate?
Yes. And I'm hoping maybe the second edition is going to come through.
Let me know the road and everything. And
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
talk to the distribution company.
Okay.
Tends to be a bit of a that's just common one on your estate,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
seems to be missed each time.
I think it's only once we received last year.
Yeah.
Since then, we've not received any.
Yeah, I flag it with when someone does note to me, I flag it with the distribution company, and they can track where someone's left off and like picked up and stuff. So I can go back to them.
And I think when we were doing the council meeting at the market, we did get somebody who said I think if we go back, there's someone to give us their details and say that they've not received the talk of the town as well. I think it's not even a new estate, it was a different area, but we did take their details. Yeah,
Yeah, let me know, and then
I think it's on the forms that we gave back.
You know, some of the flats, that's from
Yeah,
rightly.
yeah. Yeah, they said they hadn't received.
Councillor Atwell?
Yeah, thanks for the report, Rachel. Just one thing I wanted to ask about the community lottery. Obviously it's been going a little while now. Just wondered how it's been, how it's performing, you know, like benchmark against other councils that are running it and things. Is it as expected, or are we getting the amount of interest?
do you want to pick up on that, or is it more?
Yeah, so so the lottery reports to communities.
Yeah.
So the community had more information about the lottery's success at their last meeting. We're certainly performing ahead of what we thought we would in terms of number of organisations signed up. So what that means in terms of what's possible, we certainly know that we need to keep pushing it and keep encouraging organisations to sign and encouraging individuals to pick up. So we're doing at least as well as we've forecast to be at this point. Exactly what that means in terms of income to the council, we're not quite sure yet.
Okay, but the amount of people actually playing it, is that meeting expectations as well as the?
Yeah, the forecast we focused on was organisations signed up, because then the logic is if more organisations are signed, more they'll get their own players to sign up with them. I think we do need to focus on getting people to play as well as organisations to sign up in our next round of comms on it.
Okay, Councillor Jones first.
Just on the community lottery, don't know if I have to declare an interest that I oversee 3 of the good causes on their lottery dashboards. They're all very grateful for the money that they're receiving each month, and it's making a difference to those organisations. But we are seeing a challenging time in getting people to sign up for the lottery. So it's just as important that the organisations themselves are driving their marketing on their lotteries as it is the council. It's definitely a 2-pronged approach. Everybody needs to play their part, but people are out there struggling, and £1 a week might not sound a lot, but actually when you get that direct debit going out, it soon adds up. And if you're trying to support more than one organisation, people are struggling.
Yeah, we would, but as you say though, it's the organisations, the people that want to support them, but whether they want to do it through the lottery or directly, that'll be the question.
Quite a few people don't want to set a direct debit up, and they don't want to ring up to pay for a lottery ticket. They want to be able to do it physically.
When they've got money in their pocket, I think I'll give some.
Yeah.
Councillor Brennan?
Just wondering if the lottery is promoted within Talk of the Town.
Yeah,
It is.
and on the website.
We keep doing stuff on Facebook for it, so we are pushing it hard.
Is that it? Okay, thank you, Rachel, for a positive report. Communications. Next up, we have reference Opry builds. So we have Town Clerk and Chief Executive with the referral report from Personnel Subcommittee.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so this was discussed at personnel, so members may well want to pick up. The proposal is that a council adopts the attached councillor officer protocol. This isn't to address any current issues. This is because it's recommended best practice under the whole civility and respect programme that now called the FCC are running, which we've done adopted every other aspect of. So we've taken their template and very slightly just amended it to make sure it's appropriate to Dunstable Town Council. There's a little bit of crossover with code of conduct, now disciplinary stuff for staff, but it describes in quite a lot more detail what the distinct roles of officers and members are. So I think it could be a really good reference tool with new members when following the next election in terms of induction, helping people understand and know what those roles are. So it's not to address a current issue. It doesn't present any risk to us. It's just an additional tool in our bag to ensure everybody understands where we are, both officers and members.
Any questions?
I chaired that meeting because you weren't available to do that. And I think it was a consensus around the table. It was going to be a good opportunity for us to try and set a scene for the new councillors coming in 2027.
Yeah.
Which no doubt there will be some. And it'll give a good sound base for them to start off with and a better understanding.
Yeah, it very much like common sense, and everyone should work in harmony at the end of the day. Any other questions? We'll just check. Do we need a vote on that? We can accept that.
You can vote the
Yeah.
recommendation.
Okay, with those in favour of accepting the recommendation? Yes.
Thank you.
Next up, we have mayoral allowance. Back to Lisa.
So just a short report, members, on the mayoral allowance. Members requested a couple of months ago for us to bring this to committee, just expressing a requirement to clarify item 2 of the mayoral handbook under section 14B, which is regarding the allowance and how it is used. This mentions donations to charities, and just recommended a couple of options just for discussion really, or consideration, but I'd just like to note, whilst members may want the handbook to provide more clarity, which is obviously absolutely fine, it is important to know that each mayor will come in, have different ideas of what their year may look like, have different priorities, and also be from have a different financial situation in their personal life. It is totally legitimate for members to decide this evening to leave the handbook as it is, but obviously open to discussion.
Any questions? Any?
I wanted to ask about item 3, purchase of raffle tickets. Because if a mayor attends an event, if they purchase a raffle ticket with money from this account and they win a prize, does the mayor keep so where does that prize goes to?
So Jones.
Whenever I was mayor, I'd purchase raffle tickets using my allowance. If I won a prize, it would go back into my next raffle to go back out as a raffle prize.
Okay.
It's what we call, there's normally within the chain gang, you normally have one prize that does the rounds across lots of different towns and you'll see that raffle prize on many over the year, and it's which one gets to the end of the year, and it is a bit of a challenge. But most mayors will return the prizes that they win because they have to fund their next raffles themselves.
Okay, good.
I think that's if there's no more questions. Yes.
On that basis, we've got 3 options, haven't we, to discuss?
Okay, so the options, I'll read them out. 3.1 is money spent at an event the mayor is invited to, whether or not they are able to attend, e.g. charity donations at events, raffle tickets, raffle prizes, combining 2 and 3. So that would include any minor donations at that event if someone's going around collecting tin for a particular charity. The other option is amend the handbook to state that donations to charities should not include the mayor's own chosen charities to support during their year, and that any donation to the chosen charity should be taken from income raised during the mayoral year for this purpose. So basically be excluding the mayoral charities. 3.3 is remove this option completely from the allowance section of the handbook and instead amend any mention of the fundraising a mayor may choose to do to create a detailed donation element. My own personal opinion, if I go first, is that I'm happy with the 3.1. The expectation is if you're at an event, you'll be put money into a collecting tin, maybe if it's there for charities, for a charitable event. That seems to cover that now, and it sort of combines it with the purchase of tickets and donation charities. But this is an open floor, so anyone with any other opinions? Yes,
I'm quite happy to merge the first 3.1, that's fine. 3.2, 2009 I became a councillor. I don't think I've ever known a mayor to use their mayoral allowance at the end of their year to gift their mayoral allowance to their chosen charity. Mayors have historically raised their money during their year, and it's that money that is gifted to their charities. Money's left in the allowance at the end of the year goes back into the general reserve, and that's why we've got that £3,000 flexible left in our reserves, for those mayors at a later date that may not have their own transport, then you might need to up it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So last year was very unique in my term as a councillor. I don't think, Peter, whether you've seen it before happen. And I've never seen that before
No.
happen. And personally, I wouldn't want to see it again, because I think the mayors have to raise their money for their charities, because otherwise you're using public funds to support a charity, and I'm not sure that's right.
Councillor Gurney, it's all right. Councillor Gurney.
I know people were nodding, and I just wanted to say I agree with Councillor Jones on this. We hadn't seen that, what we saw last with the previous mayor, we hadn't seen that happen before. I mean, when Councillor Jones was mayor the previous year, but there were lots of things going on, lots of events going on for fundraising, and that's really what what the mayor should be trying to do, and not just sort of say, well, whatever money's left over, I'm going to give that to charity, because as Councillor Jones said, it's public money,
I think for me, just to add, I mean, that's why we go to the different mayors events, because we go there to support them and give them that support, and we all know. So, I make sure when they support me, they'll also come and support me, even if I do not attend. I will try and send something, because I'm going to be expecting that back.
So
Methods for me.
okay. Councillor.
Yeah, I just want to say I completely agree with what Councillor Jones has just said and on that aspect. Looking at the options, can I just ask then, just to clarify, 3.1, are we saying that it would only apply to spend money at that event only on those?
Okay.
So spending money on an event that a mayor would be invited to or attends. So we're saying that the allowance would only be usable for that. Is that correct?
In terms of money to charity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So you'd send if you couldn't attend, you'd still be able to send them a donation.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Could you send in the £3,000 if you wish to?
Well, that surely is your 3.2.
What I was going to say is I think the option is that we have 3.1 and 3.2.
Oh, it says combining.
It doesn't.
It's combining 0.2 and 3 of that list. So donations to charities and purchase of raffle tickets.
That's under.
It's not 3.1 and 3.2 that's combining.
Well, I think we'd have to for 3.1
That's why I was
3.2 to be.
That's why I was actually asking, are we saying under 3.1 that you can make that donation as long as if you don't go, or you do go, but it still only be applicable to an event that you'd have been invited to in the first place?
Yeah,
that's what we're stating. Okay.
Suggestion. Councillor Brennan.
Can I just clarify? So like I don't see the particular need for this personally. And is this just a reaction to what happened last year with the entire, as I understood it, the entire mayoral allowance being donated to the charity of the Mayor's Choice? Is that what this whole thing is about? Okay.
It's not changing the outcome. It's just, do we need to clarify the rules going forward to make sure that the fund is used in the way we expect it to be used? And it's agreeing on how we expect it to be used, which is the key thing.
Sure. Okay.
My point, kind of following on from that, is what we should have put in there, as well as there is an option to leave it as it is. So you don't have to choose one of those three. You can choose to live. There is always a law of unintended consequences with these things, and if there's a view that this has happened once and not before then in memory of current members, are you so big that isn't going to exist in the future? And is there a risk that somehow you'd encumber a future mayor in a way that you don't know until you get there? And it's kind of operated on a principle of trusting mayors to act appropriately, and you vote for the mayor who you think is going to act appropriately in your understanding.
And obviously this is being voted on, so if it's all voted against, then it will remain unchanged. So
Thank you, Chair. I think for any sort of business that we do as councillors, clarification and having a clear parameters as to how you use public money is prudent. So the idea that is open to interpretation, I think, is the issue that we're trying to deal with right now. Because if it's open to interpretation, anybody can do whatever they want to do or how they want to do it. So in essence, you're not taking away the principle that the mayor goes to an event and that money is available for them to buy or purchase clothes or whatever they need to fulfill their mayoral duty. But it takes away the ambiguity, the idea, if you will, that the mayor can just donate their, at the end of their year, they can just donate it to their given charity. The purpose of the allowance is not for that, and that needs to be clear. Because of the ambiguity in the paperwork or in the statement, it gives that opening for any mayor to look at, and that's not what taxpayers' money is meant to do.
Thank you, Chair. Picking up on Councillor Tamara's point, so the options here they talk about ruling out the option to give this towards a chosen charity. However, in theory, that loophole remains open for one that isn't a chosen charity. And perhaps there should be a robust check in place where the chairs approve if it's a spend over a certain size, so it's looked at or the council looks at that. I appreciate that not everyone may agree with this, but however, that is a check on the spend that could be quite large, and it is public money, as has been raised. That the fact that this could happen implies to me that there isn't a strong enough check in place.
Councillor Brennan?
Can you come back to me? Can you go to Liz?
Councillor Jones?
Sorry. Just while I'm
Is it not as
just going through everything in my
is
brain.
it not as simplistic as we put a line in the mail bit that says your mayoral allowance should not be used to fund your donations to your chosen charities at the end of your year. All monies that are sent to your chosen charities at the end of your year must come through your mayoral fundraising during your year. Everything else can stay as it is, as far as I'm concerned. It's that line that's the questionable one for me. So just a simple statement that says your mayoral money that you raise through your events is what you donate to charity.
Yeah.
Your allowance is for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points.
Yeah.
That's clear.
That's as clear as it is. I think we're overcomplicating what it is we're trying to get to, guys. I really do.
Yeah, that's what 20%.
So it's half of 3 points, isn't it?
You want to go through that again?
Can I just read what I've typed out?
Yes.
Okay.
So your mayoral allowance must not be used to donate to your chosen charities. All contributions to your chosen charities must come from funds raised during the year.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
try and keep the two things entirely separate. They're two things that do not cross. One is for supporting the mayor in fulfilling their duties. The other is raising money for charities. Amen. Don't put the two together.
So I think the clause, if everyone's happy with that clause, saying that they can't be used to.
You simply say the mayoral handbook states the allowance can be used for that. That's one thing. And the mayor, whether or not they wish to raise money for charity, whatever they do raise is what goes to charity.
Not their mayoral allowance.
Yeah, but in brackets you can put that, but I'm trying to keep the two things entirely separate because they are separate, doing two different things.
That's that one.
Yeah, I'd agree exactly what Liz and Peter Olicker just said, that that they are two separate things, and I just wondered if you got the wording, and also sort of speaking what Johnson just said as well, I think to have the absolute clarity there. I agree with the wording that, you know, Liz mentioned. However, you're also saying that to your own chosen charities, well, it just should be charity, full stop, because otherwise you can just sit around and say, well, I don't want to give it to my chosen charity, but I'm willing to give that charity £3,000. Let's, if we can have it clear
Your
on
chosen could
a
you
charity.
see, will you identify your charities at the beginning part of your mayoral year?
Yeah.
So when you've nominated your chosen charities, they are your nominated chosen charities.
Yeah.
You may, as you go through your year, visit 2 or 3 other organisations. So you think, actually, if I gave them at the end of my year £250, they would truly benefit from that and be grateful. So you need to leave a little bit of a flex in there to enable that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Don't cut it off that you can't do that flexible giving, but then that might come through that 2.2 donations to charities.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see your point. Yeah.
So don't close it down too far, but make sure that it's very clear that you don't give your mayoral allowance to your lock, stock and barrel.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the main question really about the mayoral allowance. Given the situation where of what happened, surely that should have gone for FGP for approval anyway. Or are we just saying that there is an approval that it could just go the whole, you're able to give the whole entire budget to charity if you wanted to without having any authorisation for FGP at quite a considerable sum?
So there's two quite different things here. One is what's happened in this year and what the future plan is. So in terms of what happened this year, well, last year, actually last year, thank you, customer. The mayor at the time wanted to do something. We took advice, and actually what was wanted at that time was in line with the council's policy. Now you may then look at the council's policy and go, well, that's not what we wanted that to mean. That's not what we thought it would be used for. But in terms of, and we spoke to the internal auditor about it. So we did check. So there's absolutely no breach of council rules or anything like that. It's a matter of policy.
Okay, I
so
just want
now for you to say, well, if you're not comfortable with that, well, then you need to change the policy for the future.
Yeah, I just want that clarified because based on what Councillor Alderman raised quite rightly, that you need to check and balance and things as well. So I just wondered if that was necessary, but sounds like it's all encompassing anyway.
Councillor Gurney.
So picking up on what Councillor Alderman said and also Councillor Jones, shouldn't we set a limit to say that if the mayor wants to donate to other charities, there is a limit of
Making it too complicated.
otherwise you can go to another charity and say, well, I don't know, a couple of grand.
And it
No.
depends, sorry.
It is, sorry, I come in.
People find it all over. Right, okay, go ahead.
So, the idea is, based on the point that Councillor Jones has made, the allowance, the mayor allowance cannot be donated to a charity. That is clear. So that's a line in the sand that you cannot take your mayor allowance and donate it to a charity, whatever time of the year, it doesn't matter. You cannot do that. You can buy raffle tickets, you can do all of this. So you can take your transport, you can buy clothes with it. Okay, you can do all the expenses, which is absolutely part of the rule. But the idea that you can take that fund, whether it's £1,000 or £2,000 or £200 from the mayor allowance and give it to charity, that's enough. However, the funds that you raise as a mayor from your events, you can do whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
Chosen charity or whatever charity you choose.
You don't mind any fraud.
Exactly.
Allowance in the option one says you can do that.
But it's your chosen charities we're talking about, not just charities.
Sorry,
So there's people going in like,
sorry. Thank you, Chair. I think there must be a confusion here. I'm the mayor right now.
yeah,
If I'm like tomorrow, I'm going to a charity because I have been invited
Yep.
to a charity. Chams is part of my charity, but I'm going there because they're doing a very big event in Bedfordshire, and I want to be part of it,
Yep.
build network and represent the town.
Mhm.
If I go there and I see actually there is a need, because sometimes you go and you feel like, yes, I might decide this time I want to give £5, but sometimes there's something that you can hear is a need, and I feel like, okay, my allowance system, I might give maybe 20 or 10
Yeah.
pounds. It depends, because I know they'll still come and support me at my events,
Mhm.
and they're not limited. I think if we put a limit to how much you give, and the places I go and I feel like, okay, maybe I'll give a different donation or just take something else.
Yeah.
Like the mayor of, Michelle should, should tell me, can I bring a cake? And I know I have some drinks in my house, or bring a drink. So there's a way we tend to support each other, because they're trying to, because there's so many events she's having,
Yeah.
and it's trying to balance that. So putting a limitation of how much you can give. My understanding from all of this is at the end of my meals here, which I know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back to that allowance and go like, okay, give me that allowance, I need to add to give to my charities.
Yeah.
I know that I need to raise those funds,
Yeah.
and hence I'm attending to those different events
Yeah.
to make sure that I raise funds for my charity.
Yeah.
It's part of it. It's part of your networking. It's part of presenting the town.
Yeah.
It's part of everything that we tend to do. And there are places I've been invited, and they go like, they've just invited me as a service.
Yeah.
And I felt like, you know what, it's nothing to do with charity.
Yeah.
I've gone there, it's a service, and I want to give something. I'll give a donation because I want to give a donation, because that shows I'm representing the town.
Yes. And that's what the allowance is there for.
Yeah.
As long as you pay still.
So, well,
Based on what the mayor's just said, does that mean we need to add something in that saying all contributions to your chosen charities must come from funds raised from the year other than raffle tickets and
No.
No,
No, raffle ticket.
That's an expense, isn't it?
I think
it's, and the thing is,
An expense and donation, the two
I
separate
think that's
things.
bottom line. What Liz has said, I would like, for me, the handbook to remain the same. Just add what Liz has said. I think the issue is not doing from inside, if I don't do anything, and then at the end of the day say, or I'm not going to represent other people or support other charities because I know that funding that I've been given, I have the opportunity to remove it and give as a donation. I think that's the bottom line, what Liz was trying to say.
members, I just think I would like to go back to just one caveat. Okay, I think it would help. Totally agree that we'll make it as simple as possible. But it still leaves, I feel like there's still a room for me to go as a mayor and say, I want to donate £1,000 to this event for whatever reason from my mayor allowance. The ambiguous is still there. You can still do that. And it's why I think they are proving the next level, if members agree, is to say anything beyond £500 at one go, £1,000 if you don't want to, but would have to be approved by this committee. I think that's reasonable to say so. But the idea, if you say you're giving £10, £20, £50 to an event that you go to, it's absolutely fine. But if you decide to give £1,000 or £500 at one event, then we have to question whether this covers the idea that I can give £500 to any event I go to.
So
Sorry,
let's-
Chair.
Councillor Jones,
Okay,
this is go around.
this is this is your mayoral allowance. On average, you will attend nearly 200 events during your mayoral year. If you honestly think you're going to have that amount of money after you've been out to all of those events, you've bought raffle tickets, you've gone to 25,000 church services during your year and put £5 in the collection every time. If you think you've gone to 400 or 500th birthdays and you always take a little bouquet, a posy of flowers or some whatever,
Yes.
you've got your people from ports coming over, so you're buying those little gifts there, or you've got your personal hospitality that you present. You haven't got £1,000 to give away. I think the most I gave away at any one time during my 3 years of being mayor, other than a £10 here and a £10 there, was probably £25. Or I maybe sponsored a football match at Dunstable Town Football Club for £50, and that was probably the maximum that I did. You just don't do it because you haven't got the money.
It still leaves the room
No.
for somebody that wants to do that.
But it still happened.
Because you did happen.
But so you put that clause in, you just put that clause in that says you only donate to your chosen charities at the end of your year through the money that you've raised in your fundraising events that you've personally held.
We still, we don't stop if they go to their own charity, you can still put 50 quid in
Let
it.
me
but-
just add something. Yeah, every time I'm going to support any other charities, that does not count as my donation. So if I go and support the charities that, like Tomorrow Charms, I'm not going to be
Yeah.
counting that as my donation, if that
Mm.
makes sense, because you're just going to support them.
Yeah.
So they'll not count as part of the the money that I've raised. I have to
Yeah.
give them a check from when my term has ended, and then I will present that. But I
Yeah.
cannot count everything that I've given them.
No,
So that's what you have to remember. So anytime you give them, for them, you're just going there as
Never one off.
we're talking about the one-off, because every time I go, they don't count, or Sally, you've done this, or you've done this. They'll only recognize I've gone there and I've supported them. They don't even know how much I have given,
No.
because that was not going to be acknowledged. You're there to support them as much as they're coming to support you.
Yeah.
At the end of the year is when you have to represent, you present your checks to them. But anything that you give out throughout the year, it's never
Yes.
counted.
No.
So that's what you have to remember.
So
Yeah.
Councillor Gurney,
Expenses.
and we'll last question, Councillor Gurney.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say anything more. It's sort of, Councillor Jones has already made the point. That statement's fine.
Councillor Holland, did you have another point?
Brennan.
Councillor Brennan?
I think that is sufficient. If you're trying to fix the problem that you had,
Yeah.
that someone may potentially not raise any money for their charities for whatever reason, and then just use all their mayoral allowance on a charity, that is going to fix that problem. But if someone wanted to suggest a cap on like internally audited mayoral spends of £500, I think I would also support that. I don't see any way that would hinder anyone in carrying out their mayoral duties if it would make members happier and more secure, that it would limit any not misgivings, but that it would limit any unforeseen spends by the mayor. It's just another.
I think you're at risk of unintended consequences by putting a cap on it. I think at the moment it's reported on. We've got the rules about what it is to be spent on.
Yeah.
My encouragement would be to go with what Councillor Jones has recommended, because that addresses the issue which is at hand.
Yeah, I don't think putting the individual caps on is going to. I think it's be too restrictive for mayors. You've got the administration around
And
it.
the officers speak to you. The officers speak to you, because, like, for me, I've been invited in so many places and want to maybe use a taxi. When you look at your budget, we've had conversations where they've told me, can you think about this? Because it's, of your transport, and that's what you're trying to think. So it's not that you can, you have those conversations to make sure that you're not going, because you find yourself going over the budget. It's very simple. And it's not because you're overspending, it's because you want to really support the town, and you're in different places to support the charities.
Yeah. Councillor Alderman?
Thank you, Chair. I will happily vote for that. I will happily vote for that, but I'm also in favour of a threshold, which, whatever the sensible threshold might be, £250 to £100, where once that's triggered, that there is some kind of vote in front of Finance and General Purposes Committee, or there are processes where sometimes the chair of Finance and General Purposes needs to approve an extraordinary spend. That does happen. Sometimes it happened when I was chair. I do think some kind of check would be prudent. However, that's not what is in this meeting. So I am in favour of that, but I would also like to see a threshold exist which has some kind of check on it, but that's a separate thing. I appreciate that every year I stand up and take some kind of swing at the mayoral budget and fail, but I happen to think this is a prudent idea.
Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, I fully support like a £200. I don't think. I think it would be ridiculous. I can't see a circumstance where a mayor would have to go anywhere and then go, okay, I'm going to buy this thing for £500. It's actually really important that I buy this thing for £500.
Come to effect anyway.
And I agree that it could also be an officer or a chair that it could be just an officer that double checks what the mayor is spending this thing on.
I think I just wanted to make the point that I think it's a little bit unrealistic to expect an officer, whilst I appreciate what you're saying and you want to have some level of constraints or check-in, if the mayor wants to attend an event and decides at that event that they want to contribute because they're trying to raise money for a certain thing and they think, do you know what, I've got this amount of money and I can do that, and it's £50 or £100 if you want it to be. That should be up to the mayor at that time. They can't check with an officer at that time because they're at the event. So you can discuss it beforehand if you know about it, like you've said, and we have discussed things through your mayoral year. But yeah, I just think you just need to consider that you don't want to restrict the mayor at an event and then them worrying that they can't spend that money because somebody might not approve it.
Councillor Jones, last question.
An example of exactly what Lisa's just said. Councillor Hollick attended with me a mayoral event at the Luton Hoo Walled Gardens, and we were at a Luton Adults Hospital event where there was an open public auction with some famous rugby people there. Yeah. And I did purchase a rugby ball that night, or that lunchtime, through the auction because I felt that it was right that I supported. I came away with that rugby ball and I've since given it back to another charity for them to make more money on. Dunstable Rugby Club had it 6 months ago and they've raised money for brain tumour. So that, you know, you are put in a position where you sometimes feel obliged to go probably more than what you'd anticipate, but actually you're giving it back in a different way. You see the benefits.
Councillor Twemlow, and then I'll invite the piece.
I think that example doesn't prohibit a threshold. If you would decide to buy or go, do this auction for £500 with public money, then that's not appropriate. If you do it for £100, okay. Hence why we think this threshold, because then you are at this event, it's an auction and you can get, and your budget says, the parameter is set within £200, for example. You can buy that stuff for £200, but you would not spend £500 on it. That's all we're saying. There has to be some kind of oversight.
When did that mayoral roll start? 1865. I don't think we've ever had a level of debate over it. And I think, but it hasn't happened, has it? That spend hasn't happened. What's happened and why we're talking at the table today is because we want to put that clause in to stop the inevitable happening where all the allowances are given away without having fundraised for it. That's what we're here discussing. I don't think we've ever had a problem where a mayor has gone and spent £1,000 or £500 of their allowance because they haven't got that amount of money.
You don't have that.
Sally knows that this year. Richard potentially will know it next year.
If I sum up,
It's just him.
I think we're all, well, most of it seem to agree
That's out.
it was there. And I think I was kind of what the mayors have said, especially that if you spend some higher amount like on the rugby ball, you're eating into your allowance.
Absolutely.
So you know that if you do something like that, you're going to run out of money before the year end and you'll be paying for your own taxes. So I don't believe that we need the extra complexity of having individual limits or thresholds within that. It's stopping the, well, I've got £3,000 left, I'm going to give it all to my charity, which is what this stops. The rest of it is down to the mayors to use their, understand that they've got a limited budget and they're going to have to spend that wisely to get them through the year, which I think is proven by our past mayors here. So I can put it to you that, well, first of all, are we all happy with the clause which is on the screen at the moment being inserted into the mayoral allowance?
Yes.
Raise your hands, please, if you're in favour. Yep, that's all in favour. I will ask also, I'll propose it to the officers, councillors, who would like a threshold within there? In favour? Okay. Those against the threshold?
It's got to be the mayor's discretion.
And those who are abstaining?
to spend their money, it's not there.
It's 3 abstaining, but it's passed. So we'll adopt the clause in the mayoral handbook. Thank you for that. I knew the shortest paper would take long. 2 pages of Thank you for that anyway. Next up is artificial intelligence.
You said Auntie Phil's.
I had an Auntie Phil and she was lovely.
Sorry, Nick, it really came out as that.
It wasn't anything worse. Artificial intelligence use policy. Oh,
Thank you, Chair. So the proposal is that we adopt an AI policy for the council. If our AI had been used to check the grammar in the report, it wouldn't have the extra word in the first line. So just for that. So artificial intelligence, obviously, it's a very quickly developing world. We've had some staff conversations. We've done a briefing with the management team. We have 4 members of staff who have access to Copilot, which is an enhanced bit of AI that fits within our software. So with Copilot, you can upload council documents confidentially. It's all in the council secure thing, and it does amazing things, and it's brilliant. We also have staff who get 2 or 3 other platforms depending on their role. So the proposal is that we adopt a policy, just to be clear what the rules are. Of all our policies, this is the one which I'm sure we'll bring back in 12 months and propose to change it as technology changes. We are encouraging staff to use AI where it's appropriate, to play with it, experiment where it helps staff do their job, but very much understanding the principles that AI is there as a tool to help you think and do your work, but you never rely on it. You're always responsible for everything you write. So if you write it with support of AI, you still read it and check it and understand it. We say when we're using it, so if used in a substantial way to write a report or a policy, then you state that. And sometimes that is an okay thing to do, but let's be honest about it. Have to be very careful that we're not falling foul of copyright. We have had a discussion previously about the environment. So there is a line in there about trying to use tools which are better designed to be better for the environment. That's really difficult. And I think in terms of our carbon free aims, Copilot is aiming to be carbon free by 2030. If you want me to give you a technical explanation of what that means, and does that actually mean the planet's better when we use Copilot? I honestly cannot, and I'm sure that people much more intelligent and versed than I am who will give you a very persuasive answer on that, and others who won't. My advice and it's a personal view, is that AI has got massive potential for us as an organisation to find efficiencies in the future, provide better service, and whilst there are environmental concerns, like with the use of diesel vehicles, if we find better carbon friendly ways of using AI, we will do. I don't think that concern should stop us using the technology. The policy was written in part with the help of AI, partly to prove the principle, but also then sense checked by officers to make something that is understandable and usable for us. So the proposal is that we adopt the policy as it is for now. We will continue to provide staff with training and guidance. We'll review who has subscriptions to different bits of AI. We'll probably roll out Copilot to another 4 staff. Otherwise, people are using ChatGPT or the free options on a very clear understanding that you never upload anything confidential or personal unless it's through a carefully monitored council account through Copilot.
thank you. Yeah, my opinion on this is that it's an extension of the personal computer and the word processing functions, and anything to create efficiencies. Right way to go. And we've got the personal check at the end, which is the key thing. Any questions on this?
No, it's a sensible approach.
Would you like to go to the vote then to accept the policy on AI? Always in favour? That's a bit quicker. Still plenty to go yet. Right, next. Corporate Service Budget Report 2025-26. Lisa.
26,
27. Sorry, that's the agenda which is wrong. Was that AI?
Blame it robot. Thank you, Chair. So this is the first opportunity for this committee to consider and comment on the proposed budget for the corporate services budget area. Obviously, this is the same format report that has been to both community services and the grounds environmental services committees in the past 2 weeks. So the report includes the budget that was members agreed as part of the 4-year budget in February 2025, and then as obviously the managers have gone through, we've referred to it previously, line by line through the process, quite a rigid process, and then determine where we can make any savings as well as any necessary or required growths, uncontrollable growths, like utility bill increases, etc., to enable the council to continue to deliver the services that we currently are delivering. The table is included at 2.6, 2.7. I'll give you the budget previously agreed, included in the 4-year budget, with any additional requirements or savings found. These are only highlights, so they are only plus or minus £1,000. Obviously, not every single plus or minus, but anything of any significance over £1,000. And then following at 2.8 is the corporate services budget that's proposed as a whole. The proposals are predicated on a number of the expenditure items being at flat 3%. RPI is currently looking at about 4.1%. So obviously that is conservative, but we will just try and manage that in the year should members adopt a proposal. The 4% on the salaries, we mentioned that earlier on in the evening, that is based on known best guess at this stage, based on the National Pay Award, as we don't know this and will not know it before the beginning of the next financial year. We still haven't got the tax base from Central Bedfordshire Council, although it is expected this week. So hopefully when we report to full council, we will have that figure, which will obviously have a hopefully not negative impacts on the budget. Obviously, we're happy to answer any questions. We have met with quite a few councillors now individually. We are happy to continue to do that, have direct conversations if anybody's got specific areas they want to discuss, either tonight or with Paul and I. That obviously we're happy to do so at any stage of this process to assist in making these decisions, whether it's an area of particular interest or overall budget questions.
Okay, Lisa. The one thing I'd like to make clear, which sort of dawned on me slowly, these are obviously adjustments to the prospective budget, not based on what we spent this year, just to make that clear. So we anticipated a budget last year, and that's been amended this year. It's not looking at what we've actually paying out in the current year. Any questions? God, so I'm going to be shocked then if no one's around.
Yeah.
That's all of them.
So with the underspend in mind that we covered in an earlier item, obviously that is subject to change in terms of as we learn more as the rest of the municipal year progresses. What will happen with those monies? Do we currently, will they go into the preset, reducing a preset? Will they go into reserves? What do we not currently, is that a member decision?
So if there is, there is always an underspend or overspend, because until you get to 31st of March, you never know exactly what it's going to be. So there's always going to be, and so come probably the meeting in June of FGP and council, we'll then bring a report to you saying whatever we've already done with the earmark reserves, actually the outcome was this and we recommend this. Now, if nothing happens to them, you don't put them in earmark reserves, they just go in the general reserve and the general reserve goes up. So it's in the bank account, it's the council's to spend at some point. And obviously at that point, the first question we'll be asking is there enough in the general reserve to meet our requirement? And if there's more money left over than is required for the general reserve, then you may want to put it into an earmark reserve at that point. When we're forecasting for the year, if we're let's say we're forecasting underspend £100,000, we can recommend that we create an earmark reserve or we put it into increase the earmark reserves, create earmark reserves. And it is sometimes possible where we've said in the budget that we need to spend £100,000 put into reserves, we can then take that off the revenue budget for the year because it's coming out of the reserve. Now, the things to watch with that are, if in doing that, you're doing it for, so most of our earmark reserves, we have to put something in every year. So if you're saving yourself from putting it in next year, but you're going to have to put it in the year after, all you're doing is giving yourself a 1 year saving, but the precept has to go up by more the following year, which is what happened a couple of 3 years ago. So generally, it's better to avoid doing that, because you just end up having to put up the precept by a higher amount the following year. You've got two budgetary rounds left in your terms of councillors, this one and the one following year. My expectation would be you won't be any keener to put precepts up next year than you will be this year. So as far as we can level it off between the two, I'd suggest that's the wiser thing to do. If we can find reserve contributions, which we think are one-off contributions that are required for things, then that's a great way of using underspend, because actually that could save you a one-off cost next year that otherwise have to be a revenue cost. So that's the ideal. If we can identify one-off capital contributions that are required next year that we can use underspend for, then we will be recommending that. So for the next round of budget, whether we manage it for the other two committees or definitely manage for FGP, we'll bring a report that says these are the earmark reserves we recommend for next year. This is what we're forecasting as underspend. This is how we propose using the forecast underspend. This is what we think the general reserve requirement will be. So, and this is what this might mean for the revenue budget for next year. So we'll bring all that as options for the next budget round.
Okay, Councillor Well.
Just wanted to ask a couple of things. I noticed obviously we've got, first of all, that we've got a new health and safety reserve of 5,000. What's the rationale behind that? And also to ask that there's been a lot of different new legislations coming out recently from government level and things like that we know about. Can we confirm we've factored those into our new proposals for the reserves, that anything that is likely to come up?
So for the health and safety, I talked that a little bit in the compliance report, where the compliance report gives examples of money we're having to spend now because of fire safety checks and alarms that we need. So that's all come out of known cost, which we're identifying this year we're going to have to spend next year. So that's probably a modest amount compared to what we're going to have to be spending. In terms of legislation, I'm not aware of any legislation that's actually gone through that we haven't factored in. Obviously, the employment stuff is going to come through, and we'll work that out when it arrives, depending on what it actually is. There's a lot of uncertainty about that. Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, we've accommodated everything we should do.
Okay. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Some questions. Loan interest payable. Do we have any loans? Like, what's our loan situation like? Like, when did we last see the loans? And more importantly, are any coming to the end? Are any reaching maturity?
Yes, and that's factored into the budget in front of you.
Okay, cool. Increase in civic hospitality budget. Why is that?
That is mainly because of the cost of tech PA systems. We've been getting discounted rates for many years on the actual setup of doing the mayor making, the town meeting. Obviously with the town meeting, members are obviously, well, it's usually the mayor that hosts the town meeting, isn't it? But whether we used to be held in the council chamber, but in recent years we've used the college, and albeit that they don't charge us, we do have to pay to stream the event, have the PA system in so that we can have like live questions, microphones, etc. It all comes at a cost that we have not considered in previous years' budgets.
And one of the main bits of feedback we've had from the annual town meeting is around sound. So people in the room want to hear clearly what's said. People online want to hear what's said. And actually the tech setup to take into a venue without any of it, to make it so you can hear the speakers in the room, but also the microphones are recording and going online and streaming at the same time without feeding back.
Cool. Subscriptions, publications. Increase in that.
I mean, the prices of subscriptions and publications just go up year on year, quite substantially, unfortunately. We've introduced new parish online, which assists many officers in carrying out their roles, but that's £1,500 a year. Every subscription that we get, so membership, we ask of benefit. Every time the renewal comes up, we ask for the benefit of the relevant officer or manager. So we do question them, but it's just pure increase in requirement. Most of them are online membership, but they do include a lot of advice. So we have like events, the town centre markets, all sorts of publications.
Sorry, I have one more, if that's okay.
That's fun.
So 27, 28, 28, 29 and 29, 30. The election reserve is going from 20,000 to 30,000. I just wondered what
That's because we're forecasting the amount we'll need come the next election, and every time we've set the budget, we've kicked it further into 27, 28. So if we put the same amount every year over the 4 years, it'd be less. But because I don't think we put anything in it last year.
No. Because we're putting in saving.
We know we're going to have a big cost actually in the election year, so now we've got to put that money in the bank for the election year because that's what we're going to be charged.
Can I also ask, like, water, electricity and gas, right? How is it these things don't go up? Like, how come the prices, like, of water, electricity and gas over 2 years don't change at all?
Because we're on a 3-year deal.
Yeah, we're on a 2-year deal. That's right. But so at the moment we have no idea what it will be, so we can only best guess in years 3 and 4. But as it stands, they're not increasing. Water we know has increased, but because we don't have a figure, we've tried to sort of do some research. We have just put a small amount on some of the water bills that do tend to rise up, like the allotments, etc. But we'll just try and manage it until we know better, which may come next year.
Okay, cool. I'm done. Thanks.
So thank you, Chair. Right, so I've just got the publicity and marketing and then news latest. Is that the talk of its time?
Yeah.
And so that's gone up. And, okay. So
The distribution costs we've been told they're going to increase. They haven't increased for the last 3 years.
And it's the cost of paper.
And the cost of paper.
So my other question was just thinking about coming back to the underspend and how we reduce the current precept that we're running against. And I think having this conversation is obviously something that we cannot avoid, because our resident, will be asking the question once they get this paper come through. So it's better, we ask the question for the people that we represent. So I know it's difficult, and I've spoken to the chair about this in terms of how we'll, based on the current projection, I can see thinking about the on-spend and how we can use that to at least bring the current projection down is something that we have to quickly, think about, rather than, saying we're just going to take that and put it in reserve or put it somewhere. I think if we don't tackle the fact that everybody, is in a difficult place and they don't have that reserve, and we have this conversation every year, but as well as trying to meet the council mandate and not creating a big loophole to the extent that we would run into trouble. We don't want to be in that situation, but also we have to think about the precept and its current, what it's projected to be. I think it's important now to start thinking of, Paul said, the one-offs in this budget. So I was just thinking Grove House, for example, we're thinking about money that we'll be spending on Grove House. If that's going to go in the budget, it's projected to go in the budget. This is something that we should be thinking about. So that comes off it, and you can be using the underspend for that. There are things that I think we need to do a little bit more work on to ensure that we use the underspend to actually show, or reduce the effect of the precept. I don't want to put in terms of where we should be targeting this, because I think it's a difficult conversation to have. But I think we need to critically look at how we use that underspend to bring the precept down. That would be helpful for our taxpayers.
We can do that.
Yeah, could be. I think the actual underspend, it looks quite a large amount, but as Paul says, if we get the wage bill wrong and it's 0.5% more than anticipated, I think we'll find that underspend has disappeared quite rapidly.
Yes, I'll just make a point on that, Chair.
I think we will, as you say, wisely.
The last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, the average that's gone up is about 2.5%, 2% thereabout. We've set it at 4%.
It's 3.2.
No, it's higher last year.
3.2 last time, the year before.
2.5 the year before.
The year before was also a fixed amount, so lower salaries.
Oh,
as
for
well.
the salary?
Yes.
Yeah, because it averaged out because they gave us a set amount per full-time equivalent employee, whereas this year it was a percentage, so it makes it a lot easier. And that I think that's quite
Right.
we'd
But
expect it to be a percentage.
Yeah, so we've set it as 4%, so we're covered in any case. I don't think it's going to go up more than that, whatever happened. But the point is, those underspend are not coming into that because the wages already been budgeted for. But what we're looking at is the critical spending as it relates to, let's talk about Powery House, for example. There's, and 100,000 thereabout that you've been set aside. What can you use it to bring down the precept? And those are the kind of conversation. Yes, it's going to be a one-off for this year, but what happened next year, and then we're going to follow that up. But I think those are the kind of things that we should be looking at to ensure that our residents don't feel the full effect of what's coming down.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully a quick question. In terms of the National Pay Award, so we're projecting 4%, I think it is, just to be on the safe side. Are we projecting 4% on what the pay award actually transpired to be in the year that has taken place, or are we projecting 4% on what we expected it to be? So is it a 4% increase on what we actually budgeted, or a 4% increase on what actually the cost was?
We budgeted, so when you set the 4-year budget, we budgeted 3%, but based on what it was this year, because obviously when we set that budget, it was a set amount which averaged out, whereas this year it's affected, so we've increased it to 4%, so we've increased it by 1%.
Yes, but is it 4% of what the budget expected for this year, or is it 4% of what it actually came to as our budget for this year?
4% of what it actually came to.
Okay.
Because we're predicting it'll be 4% increase from where we actually are.
Yeah, okay, makes sense, thank you.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
I got one more.
Okay,
Can, like, this is probably going to be a really unpopular question. A 4-day working week, would you be able to put that into the budget?
So,
Because
Could
lots of reasons why.
just give you my personal professional response to that question. For us as an organisation, 4-day working week would not work. So individual members of staff can put in a request to work all kinds of arrangements. So for a 9-day fortnight, for example, an individual member of staff can request to do that, and we will consider that request based on business need as we're required to do. But if you look at what a large majority of our staff do, we have public facing staff. So people working in Priory House, people cutting the grass for 37 hours a week, people running Bennett's, community engagement team going around doing set hours, the youth engagement team who do so many hours doing detached youth work. All of that is X hours that we're paying people to deliver. So you can't, if our grounds team did a 4-day week instead of a 5-day week, you'd have to employ more people to cut the grass on Fridays because you wouldn't get as much grass cut in the week. So for our nature of organisation, because we're so public facing, the large majority of our staff are public facing. Now, I suppose I could put in a proposal that myself and 3 heads of service could all work a 4-day week because we're managers and we work differently. I wouldn't face that up to my staff to say I'm working a 4-day week, but they're not allowed to. It's actually managers need to be present when staff are working. So I just don't, whether it's right for big organisations, no idea. That's not my expertise, but for us as an organisation, it's just not a viable option.
Thanks very much.
okay, right. Moving on then to reports from outside organisations. Citizen Advice Management Committee, Councillor.
Chair, I attended the CA board meeting a couple of weeks ago. Very good, very interesting. A lot of it obviously was to do with reviewing and approving procedures and things that they had, internal audits and things like that as well, which I won't bore you with, but needless to say, they've had all of their audits and they've come out exceptional with all of their feedback and notifications. They remain extremely busy. It's especially so now, obviously, in the current situation of cost of living and things like that are going on, and also because of things like Watling House, CBC Watling House across the road having disappeared and things like that. You know, there's very few places where public can actually just walk in and talk to people. So they see themselves as being the only really front-facing place that people can go in to vent off or to help or whatever. So because of that, they do find themselves, you know, quite overwhelmed at times, but they are coping. But that's not necessarily to say that, you know, the very good service that they provide. They did have a situation where there was a bit understaffed with volunteers, but that's quickly turned around. No idea why, but it has done very positively and good news to a position where they've actually got people where they're fully stocked and got people waiting on the waiting list now. So don't ask me how that works out, but it's good news for them and good news for our residents. Apart from that, it's business as usual. It continues to be an extremely important service for our town, and you know, they're doing the best they can to cope with things, but they do get quite overwhelmed at times, as I say, because it is only really a central point of people can walk in and talk to people and get help. So that's it for me. Thank you.
May I add to that? Just out of interest, I don't know if Richard knows, but Dunstable, but Mid-Bed Citizens Advice Bureau has now joined with Bedford Citizens Advice Bureau.
Yeah.
And the council have assured us that all funds that come from Central Bedfordshire Council to be allocated to the work to help residents of Central Bedfordshire will be going to Central Bedfordshire. I don't know how they're going to do that, but they've assured us that they will.
Oh, well, yeah, we have asked questions of how they're going to split that and how they're going to actually do, which has not really come across as being a workable situation, but we'll have to see how that transpires.
Okay, any other questions for Councillor Atwell? No. Okay, Dunstable International Town 20 Association. I assume Councillor Wallach will take that up.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it's somewhat dormant at the moment, and there hasn't been a meeting for some while. Technically, it still exists, and I think there are individual personal contacts, particularly with Germany, but with France, it's been again rather dormant over the years since their rearrangement of their local government and so on.
Okay. Thank you for that. Hospice at Home Management Committee. Well, Wendy's kind of, you're going to that one, Councillor.
I can give a brief update.
Yeah.
Hospice at Home continues to thrive in the community. We've got 25 volunteers. We are currently supporting a number of families who have lost their loved ones in recent weeks. So our care doesn't stop when we lose the person that we were initially supporting. We are going to be focusing between now and spring in making sure that people know of our services, because we know there's lots of people out there with life-limiting illnesses that don't necessarily, despite us being 40 years old in May next year, don't know that they can draw on our support. So a lot of our marketing and drive will be focusing on making sure our voices are heard and our support is there for people. But yeah, that's.
Okay, thanks. Well, obviously, from a hospice point of view, it's any age really. Does it cover any age on the?
The Hospice at Home Volunteers is not linked to Keach Hospice.
Okay.
We are an independent charity. We were set up in 1985 to support those with life-limiting illnesses that remain at home. And provide that support, companionship and opportunity for their carers as well, to be able to go out about their day-to-day role. We work alongside for our training purposes of our volunteers, but we're not linked in any way, and we're certainly not funded through any of the money that Keach get. We are self-funded.
Certainly, worthy service. Thank you for that. Ashton Arms House Foundation.
Apologies, Chair. I was not able to attend either Ashton meeting as they were held on a day I had a hospital appointment, and haven't got an update to give.
Thank you. Ashton Schools Foundation.
I think that was on the same day.
Same morning.
Yeah,
I think I was away at the time, but I would say that the monies that have been benefiting both Manshead and the lower school or primary school, the expenditure is coming to an end, so the monies have been very usefully spent, and I think I've reported on that each time that the two schools have been benefited and changed the sort of atmosphere in the school, particularly at Manshead. It's such a different school as a result of what monies the Ashton Foundation has been able to give them.
To hear. Okay, thank you for that. Choose Foundation. Is that Councillor Brown or is it giving?
Not anyone in choose.
It's normally me. I believe there's the next meeting, I think, is in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
I didn't was in choose. Did I put myself? It was Wendy who put.
I think there is someone else who's supposed to be on it. I can't remember who it was before.
Brendan.
Kenton withdrew. Kenton withdrew.
Yeah.
There we go.
Kenson's withdrawn from those, so that's why they were reallocated in previous meetings.
Gotcha.
Paws Land Charity.
Nothing to report because we only ever meet twice a year, once to agree with how much we give out at Easter and then to donate at Easter.
As many it shows. Read one.
Lockington Charity and Marsh Charity.
Me.
You'll be used to that.
And you can
Sally
report
attended her
that.
first meeting last week, so Sally attended her first meeting last week. So we continue to go from strength to strength. We've just refurbished one of the other houses in Ladies Lodge on Church Street near our red phone box project, and we've got a new resident that's moved in who's extremely settled and happy to be there. We're working closely with the Choose Foundation and the other Ashton Charities Foundation to make sure that all of our costings are allocated appropriately throughout all of the charities, and we all proportionally provide towards what's needed. But yeah, everything's okay at the moment.
Good. At least it's properties keep being done up. And
Yeah, and we've given out a few grants to needy families that have come forward via the social services route and via the Central Beds Council.
okay.
So we've provided bed frames, we've provided white goods to a few families recently through that charity.
Good to hear. Dunstable District Scout Council Executive, that's me. So I missed one of their meetings, so I was out of the country. But the next community meeting is this week, and the next event is the Scouts Christmas concert, which is on Friday the 5th of December at St Mary's Church. I'm not sure if we've been invited to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's supposed to be a good do anyway. But other than that, the committee runs well. Okay. Yes.
Jack, can I ask, when do we decide what the outside organisations that are represented by the council?
Sorry.
When do we decide on the outside organisations?
Like,
Just out of interest, it was something just went through my head earlier today because I was at a Pride and Dunstable meeting. So I thought, hey, Pride, that's interesting. You guys might be interested in that, Pride and stuff. That could be an outside organisation. We currently have 2 councillors that sit on that. And yet we don't report it. That'd probably be community services, though, I would imagine, and also Rotary Club, as that would be a good idea because we're corporate partners with them. There should be a member surely that goes to the Rotary Club and reports back to the council on what they do.
I did attend a Rotary Club when they had the Dunstable London Gliding Club meeting, but apparently they've stopped those ones because of problems they had actually hosting it there. So
No, there wasn't the reason why they were stopped.
well, I was saying that's what I stopped by one member.
Check, I'll respond to those comments.
Yes, you
A few of
go,
their comments.
go for it.
So in terms of when do we agree what organisations we provide a representative to, that's kind of it's an ongoing rolling arrangement we have with organisations. I don't think we ever sit down and say, are we still happy to be doing these organisations? And for many of them, they've been going on for many, many years. So I guess at any point, a member with notice to the committee could recommend that we add one to that at any point. Obviously, it's very, very important that the organisation wants that to happen before that is brought up as a suggestion at a council meeting. So it wouldn't be appropriate to propose that we send a representative to X organisation, then tell them the council's now voted to send this councillor as their representative. Even if they really like a particular council and you're involved with them, it's a different dynamic and it becomes an ongoing thing. What we do is kind of every year at the annual council meeting, we agree the representatives on each organisation, but quite a few of them have quite a strong preference that they get a representative for the 4-year term and stick with them, especially where it involves being a signatory on charities. So if we change a representative on the charities every year, I will not be popular. So ideally, for most of the organisations we set to, it is at the start of a 4-year period because it just gives consistency for everyone. But the 1st of May is or the annual council meeting is the chance to review the representation. And so to clarify something about the Rotary Club, which then so the council joined Rotary as a corporate member, and we're very excited about that because we're one of the first organisations anywhere ever to be a corporate member of Rotary. So we're leading the road with that. Dunstable Rotary really pleased that we're a corporate member. I then became the kind of council's key link in that, so I go along when I can, which probably isn't as often as they would like, but also we have 5 members who are invited to go along on a kind of standing basis and try to go along when they can, who's the mayor, the deputy and the 3 committee chairs is the way. That's kind of agreement we reached with the Rotary. So as a way of just getting members more involved in the Rotary on a day-to-day. Obviously individual members may be a member of the Rotary as well in their own capacity. It has not crossed my mind to have Rotary as an organisation we send a member to, but it may well be something they would be up for.
I wonder whether it is actually one of those organisations that we just clarify with them and report back through FNGP, because we're a corporate member, so we pay out. It'd be good for all members to understand not what happens every week at Rotary, but like last week, how many of you know that John Crawley came and gave a fantastic presentation on the history of Dunstable in Bloom through to Anglia in Bloom through to Britain in Bloom, and then the next day we obviously got told we were going back into Britain in Bloom. So Yeah, and he was really well received. So that we have those keynote speakers that come, you don't want to hear about the you know, the iffy bits of this and that, but it's like just an overarching summary, maybe a quarterly one, or you know, or even just on this list, a quick.
Maybe because I know that Jackie tends to coordinate liaise with members who are going to Rotary. So we could ask Jackie to include something on the agenda saying these members have been to Rotary in the last quarter and Paul's been on these occasions, and if there are any particular items of interest relevant to town council, at that point anybody who's been can update based on what's happened. I think that'd be really sensible.
Councillor Wood.
I just report I gave a talk, excellent talk, I have to say.
Back. I missed your talk.
I think
Sorry.
September, I think it was on
I did
40,
notice.
40 years of the town council. And I'm also due to go on the 9th, I think, which I must see Jackie about just to make sure we get a ticket. Yeah, so that'll be a couple of times that I've been.
Will that be an excellent talk as well?
No, I will listen this time.
Excellent, mate.
I'll excellently listen, yes.
Not talking that day. This is not on my list.
Okay, is that any more questions or points on the outside organisations? Okay, now I have a motion to exclude the press and public or public receiving. So, all in favour? Okay, so we'll exclude the public and press. And we